Well, what's up, family? Happy Wednesday to you. Shout out to everybody that's hanging out with us tonight, man. So grateful to have the privilege to be back with you. I hope you had an incredible Thanksgiving. I hope you intentionally, listen to me, I hope you intentionally practiced the discipline of being grateful. Listen to me. Gratitude, living with gratitude, isn't just a feeling, it's a discipline. It's a decision to reflect on what you do have, what God has done, as opposed to focusing on what you don't have and what God hasn't done yet. So I hope you enjoyed Thanksgiving. Hopefully you had some time to reflect on God's goodness to you. And I'm glad to be back with you tonight. Hey, before we leap into this lesson, I need to pause for the cause. First of all, I want to welcome those of you who are hanging out with us for the very first time. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday night where we are rocking, hopefully rocking your world with God's word. And so if you're here for the first time, man, welcome, welcome, welcome. In addition to that, I want those of you who are my regular Wednesday night tribe, I want y'all to just say what's up to each other in the chat. You know how we do. Let each other know where you're watching from, what part of the world you are in. So grateful for so many of you each week who watch this live, and for those of you who watch the replay. All right, number 3, check this out. You know the deal. I want you, if you haven't pressed that subscribe button, I want you to do that. We got some exciting things that we're regularly dropping on this channel. I want you to be updated about that. I also want you to press that like button, not because that makes me feel like you like me. I don't even look at the number of likes actually, but I want you to press that like button because I know it helps us get up in the Instagram algorithm, and it puts this message in front of many more eyes. And there are so many of you that I hear from regularly who say things like, your videos, Dharius, just kept coming up in my feed, And one day I decided to click one, and it's added value to my life ever since. You can contribute to that happening to someone else if you are willing to just press that like button. All right. Well, listen, let's get back to work. We are in the book of Proverbs, and we left off this series of teaching is called Wisdom University. Wisdom University. Wisdom is the key that unlocks the door to your next level. That you living according to, watch this, you living in a way that is consistent with God's best for you, God's best for me, isn't just tied to us living righteously. We've got to live wisely. Now, living righteously is wisely. So you can't live wisely and not live righteously, but it is possible to live righteously and not live wisely. So there, are you understanding what I'm saying? There are people who are holy, but they are unhappy because they have a righteousness in terms of their morality, but they do not have a wisdom in terms of their moves. Have you ever seen anybody that's moral, but I think maybe some of us have struggled with this from time to time, moral, but don't know how to make wise moves, wise financial moves, wise professional moves. Watch this, wise relational moves. Speaking of relational moves, shameless plug, January 2022, my podcast is returning. It's going to be the Relational Intelligence Podcast with Dr. Dharius Daniels. Man, you don't want to miss that. Can't get life right if you're getting relationships wrong. But the point that I'm making is we're spending this season right now attempting to upgrade our wisdom, because if I upgrade my wisdom, I'll upgrade my life. And last week we left off, or our last lesson, we left off in Proverbs chapter 3. Check this out. We finished with verse 10. I'm going to pick up in verse 11 today because it's incredibly important. Listen to what the writer says. He says in verse 11, my son, do not despise the Lord's discipline and do not resent his rebuke, because the Lord disciplines those he loves as a father does the son he delights in. Now listen to this. Listen to what's happening in these two verses. This is the way wise people live. This is the way wise people live. Now put this affirmation in the chat. Come on, you know the deal. You know the routine. Put it in the chat. I am in the wisest season of my life. Say it. Put it in that chat. I'm in the wisest season, that's a lot to type, Dharius. Okay, this is the wisest season of my life. Put it in there. Put it in there. Watch this. Now, I taught you the difference between facts and truth. The fact is, you may feel like you're in a season where you are not walking with and walking in wisdom. You may be dealing with the fruit. You may be living with the fruit or the harvest of a previous season where you did not live with and walk in wisdom. But remember, that is a fact. Faith doesn't deny facts. Faith believes God to change them. Woo! Did you hear what I just said? Faith doesn't deny facts. Faith just simply believes God to change them. Because facts must bow their knee to the truth. What's the truth? John 17:17, Jesus said, sanctify them by your word. Your word is truth. My God. And so facts are what we see. Truth is what he said. And what we see doesn't change what he said, but what he said will change what we see. So the facts will at some point bow their knee to the truth. Come on. And we believe God's word to be true. So we speak what he said, not just what we see. Come on. So we're saying this is the wisest season of my life because he says, James chapter 1, if I desire wisdom, he will give it to me liberally. Come on here. I said liberally. He will, watch this. He says, if any man, y'all don't believe me. Huh? Y'all don't believe me. We going old school today. James chapter number 1. Y'all don't believe me. Huh? James chapter number 1. Let's see here. Verse here. 5. Here it is. James chapter 1 verse 5. Listen to what James says. If any of you, y'all better come get me tonight. If any of you, look at me. If you listening, put I'm listening, PD, in the chat. Put I'm listening. Let me see. Put I'm listening. Watch this now. It says, if any of you, not some of you, come on, not the perfect you, not the religiously tenured you, but if any of you lacks wisdom, come on. See, one of the powerful, watch this. One of the most powerful weapons of the adversary is deception. Come on. He's called the Prince of Darkness because darkness, somebody says, I'm in the dark, right? Being in the dark is a metaphor, guys, for being unaware of something, right? You say, oh, I was in the dark about that. It means I'm unaware or I'm being deceived. So his primary weapon is the weapon of deception. Come on. And the worst kind of deception is self-deception. Good God Almighty. It's one thing to be blind, right? Meaning unaware of a certain issue that I have. It's another thing to be deceived, meaning to think I'm something that I'm not. And so one of the ways, are y'all listening to me? If you listen to me, put yes. Let me hear you say yes. Okay. One of the ways the enemy keeps us from getting, good God from Zion. One of the ways the enemy keeps us from getting from God what we don't have is by deceiving us into thinking we already have it. I'm going to say that again. One of the ways the enemy prevents and prohibits us from getting things from God that we don't have is by deceiving us into thinking we already have it. We don't fake it till we make it in the kingdom. We faith it until we make it. I don't act like I have something that I don't, but I believe God's going to give it to me. Come on. So some people can't get wisdom because they are unaware that they lack wisdom. But the text says, if any one of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God. Ask who? God. Who? God. Who? God. Because there are two types of wisdom. That's James 3. Earthly wisdom, street smarts, common sense, experience. And then there's heavenly wisdom. Wisdom that transcends common sense. It's uncommon sense. Who gives generously to all. Ask God, who gives generously, not stingily, but generously, not partially, but generously. Generously to God generously to all, without finding fault. Come on here. He's saying God gives wisdom generously to all without finding fault. So this is why we can declare, affirm, say, this is the wisest season of my life. Why? Because even if I don't have it, the scriptures tell me if I ask God, and I didn't finish that in James because we're in Proverbs, not James. But if I ask God in faith, he's going to give me wisdom. Oh my, I want somebody, y'all going to make me preach on a Wednesday night? Come on now. I want somebody to put in this chat, wisdom is on the way. My gosh. I said, I want you to put wisdom is on the way. It's on the way. It's on the way. It's on the way. It's on the way. Now listen to this. This is the way the wise live their life. Back to verse 11. Wise people don't despise the Lord's discipline. Why? Why? Now, discipline doesn't feel good. The Bible says in Hebrews, it feels grievous for the moment, but in the end, it produces the peaceable fruit of righteousness. So wise people don't despise the Lord's discipline because we rather live better long term than feel better short term. Somebody put some fire in that chat. I said we don't despise the Lord's discipline because we'd rather live better long term than feel better short term. Don't despise or don't resent his rebuke because watch this, his discipline is one of the ways he expresses his love. Now we have to park there. We have to park here. Watch this. Hebrews says, whom the Lord loves, he disciplines. And the text says here, verse 12, the Lord disciplines those that he loves, which means that that his discipline is an expression of his love. Are y'all ready for this? God is no longer punishing. God isn't punishing. So punishment is inherent in decisions that we make that are inconsistent with the creative design. The wrath of God, God's not mad anymore. The wrath of God has been poured out on the cross at Calvary upon Jesus. Now God is no longer pouring out wrath. God is only offering chastisement and correction. Even we did a series on Romans at the beginning of this year, and one of the things we talked about in Romans was, I think in Romans 1, where the scriptures talk about the reprobate mind. You see, then that's not God gave them over to themselves. God didn't put that on them. He says, I'm going to give you over to yourself. You don't want me to intervene anymore. You want to be the Lord of your own life. You want to allow your mind to be governed by your impulses and not governed by divine design. So God says, I'm going to give you over to what you want. We got to park here, guys. Because this is what happens in relationships with God. I'm going to have to talk about this on the podcast when I do it too. And also relationships with people. We confuse, I think many of us do it at least. We confuse the depth of God's love with a certain expression of love. Ooh, Come on, I'm going to say it again. It happens with God and with people. We can easily confuse the depth of someone's love with their expression of love. It's almost like a child who has a mother and a father, and then a child, and let's say, this is not always the case, it's just an example. Let's say the mother is more nurturing. Let's say the mother offers more consolation. Let's say the mother demonstrates more physical affection. Let's say the mother expresses love in using terms of endearment. But let's say the father, on the other hand, is training, leading, guiding, affirming, but disciplining and correcting and establishing order. And I'm not saying moms don't do that. I'm just making an example. If a child doesn't understand the difference between the depth of love and the expression of love, they can feel like mom loves me more because that love is expressed a certain way. When the truth of the matter is, the father can love the son just as much as the mom, but he's expressing that love by giving the son or the daughter what they need to survive in a world outside the realm of their house. He's saying, I got to teach you order and discipline and respect, because if you don't have that, you won't survive out here. And I love you too much to let you leave my house grown, but still a child. It's both love. Come on. When you take the child, mom, to Chuck E. Cheese, I don't even know if they have those anymore. I think all the Chuck E. Cheeses are closed down. Dave and Buster's, do they have that? Somebody put what they have in the chat. What my kids are older now. Where do kids go now? It was Chuck E. Cheese when my kids was there, and we had that pizza, and that pizza was not a blessing to my stomach. My God, y'all remember that pizza? If you're familiar with Chuck E. Cheese, don't leave me out here by myself. Say, we got you. If you're familiar with Chuck E. Cheese, put that in the comments. We got you. But when you take them to Chuck E. Cheese, Dave and Buster's main event, or whatever, when you take them there, that's love. But when you get them there and you tell them, don't lick the bowling ball, don't stick your hand in the Coke machine, that's love too. Come on. Because, am I making sense? When you work hard to keep a roof over their head, put them in a home or wherever you're blessed to live, you're loving them then. But when you tell them not to stand on the table, the glass table, you're loving them then too. Because love shows up sometimes looking like restriction. Y'all better, did you hear me? Sometimes love looks like restriction. You're saying, the child may be thinking, if you love me, you'll let me do whatever I want to do. You'll let me be free. And you're like, no, because I love you, I'm trying to protect and preserve your freedom. And so this is why the writer says wise people don't despise the Lord's discipline, because when he's disciplining, he's loving. He's not trying to punish. Y'all better, are y'all here? Say yes. He's not trying to punish. He's trying to realign behavior. His discipline is protecting you from a consequence that is much greater than the discipline he's using. Are you following me? This is what happened with Jonah. When Jonah got swallowed by that whale, the consequence of being swallowed by that whale was far less than the consequence of being in that sea, probably getting hypothermia, maybe even drowning. Maybe even being consumed by another whale that would have actually taken Jonah's life. Are you here? Ha. He says, when God's correcting something, it's because he loves you. When he's correcting something, it's not because he sees how bad you are necessarily. That's not it. That's not what he sees only. He knows the depths of my heart that he loves me the same. But when he's correcting something, it's not because of how bad I am. It's because of the good he sees in me. Did you hear what I just said? I said it's because of the good he sees in me. It's because he refused to allow me to settle being a version that is less than and beneath what he's called, created, crafted, and commissioned me to be. I hope I'm making sense. He says, I want you to get this education through agitation because I'm getting ready to send around another opportunity. And when I send the opportunity around the next time, I want you to be ready for it. So I'm disciplining you now so that you don't miss what I have for you in the next. Are y'all following me here? Now watch this. Don't despise the Lord's discipline. Don't resent his rebuke. He disciplines those he loves. But watch this. Blessed are those who find wisdom and those who gain understanding, for she's more profitable than silver and yields a return better than gold. Watch this. Blessed are those that find wisdom, because wisdom is more profitable than silver and it yields better returns than gold. Watch this. Wisdom yields better returns because it never fails to give you a return on your investment. Did you hear what I just said? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? With a financial investment, you may or may not get a return. But wisdom is more profitable. Glory. Because wisdom always gives you a return on your investment. Everything else goes up and down. But wisdom always gives you back what you put in with interest. The word blessed here means happy. Now, I don't even have time to unpack that because there are times where I make a distinction between happiness and joy. But very often in the Old Testament, at least, when this word blessed is used, it refers to happiness. You can call it joy, but it's referring to this emotional well-being and this emotional sense of jubilation based on the revelation that my welfare rests securely and completely in the hands of God. It says, if I find wisdom, wisdom gives me something that silver and gold can't. Happiness. Oh gosh. Did you hear what I just said? It's more profitable. Now watch this. I'm not going to bother this. Yes, I am. Somebody say bother it. Somebody say bother it. Watch this. If wisdom is worth more than silver or gold. Now watch this. If you give wisdom, you'll end up getting silver and gold. Or whatever the currency is in your culture. You got me? If you get wisdom, you'll end up getting silver and gold. But watch this. If it is more profitable, are y'all ready for this? Are y'all ready for this? So here's the question. If wisdom is more profitable than silver and gold, will we work for wisdom the way we work for silver and gold? Somebody just put, wow. Put that in the chat. Just give me a bunch of W's. Just put, wow. No, think about that, guys. I got this in my notes here. If wisdom is worth more than silver and gold, will we work for wisdom the way we are willing to work for silver and gold? Are you here? Think about this. Jim Rohn puts it this way. If you, people who are in my mentoring and coaching group, which I'm getting ready to open up soon, by the way, and take some people before the end of the year, Daniels Den. You've heard me make this Jim Rohn quote frequently. You got to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. The Apostle Paul told Timothy, neglect not the gift that is in you. Are we working to become wise? You're working. That's why you're tuned in. That's why you're watching this. Everybody doesn't watch this. There's some people who like the LED screens and the smoke and the crowds in the rooms and the auditoriums and the energy. And there's nothing wrong with that. But those of you who watch this, you're like, yeah, I need that. And I need this. I'm working. I'm watching this on a Wednesday or whenever I watch the replay because I'm working on me. I'm investing in me because the investment you make in yourself in the present is an indication of what you believe about your future. If you believe God's going to do something great tomorrow, you start becoming great today. We got to work for wisdom. And this is something I'm just telling you. The Bible calls Satan, I think this is in Corinthians, the God of this world. The God of this world has blinded the minds of them so that they cannot see the glorious light of the gospel. God of this world, right? God of this world. So some of the trends and social norms that we see in our culture aren't in and of themselves evil, but there are times, sometimes, somebody just put sometimes, not all the time, but there are times where these trends and norms are actually influenced by the enemy. And here is a trend and a norm, at least in America and probably in the Western part of the world. And that's the part of the world I'm most familiar with, at least from a religious standpoint. Here's a trend. It's just a fact, guys. It's a fact. The trend is to invest way more in what we put on us than what we put in us. That's the trend. Do you know that? Can we go here? Hey, this is for grown people, right? This is Wisdom University, classes in session. Think about this. It's just a trend. Like weddings, like I'm a pastor, so I see what happens with weddings, and it's like, people go all out for a wedding, but will get upset if they have to submit to some kind of counseling. Wait, all that, now, not knocking a wedding. It's amazing. It's a huge, besides giving your life to Jesus, is the most consequential and important decision you'll ever make in terms of who you marry and who you say I do to. So I'm not saying that that's not important, but you do know just the ceremony in itself does not make the marriage, y'all. Listen to your boy. The ceremony in and of itself does not make the marriage. And so a beautiful one only gives you beautiful pictures. It does not give you a beautiful marriage. It gives you amazing memories, which are important, but it does not give you an amazing marriage. It is what you put in you, not what you put on you, that determines the strength and the health of that relationship. We got to work for wisdom. Lord, make me a worker for wisdom. I want you to just think about how that trend is so illogical, it has to be satanic. Because as humans, we're way smarter than that. Yeah, it's amazing. So like I'm a pastor, but I'm also a coach, right? So I have an ecclesiological responsibility, and then I have an entrepreneurial responsibility, but my entrepreneurial responsibility flows from my ecclesiology. Here's a point that I'm making. I see people in both spaces, in the ministry space and in the marketplace space, who are like way more into how good a graphic or something is. Not that that's not important, it is. But they're way more into that than how good they are. Here's a saying. This is what I heard one of my friends say one time. Let's say a preacher or something has on a nice suit. He'll say, "Don't let that suit out preach you." Meaning, don't have something you're wearing that looks better than the quality of what you're saying. Because when I invest in what I put on me, And I'm not saying that that's not important, but not in what I put in me. I'm not operating in wisdom. Let me get ready to wrap up here. Let me get ready to wrap this up, guys. Check this out. Solomon says, verse 15, she's more precious than rubies. Nothing, speaking of wisdom, nothing you desire can compare to her. Now, this statement, to me, comes with a unique degree of strength. It's an extraordinarily strong statement because of who says it. This is a man, Solomon, who has everything. He has silver. Yeah, he wrote this. He has silver. He has gold. He has rubies. He's one of the most wealthy men to ever, he's one of the most wealthy men in human history. So when a man who has everything says that wisdom is worth more than it all, then I believe him. Because he's speaking experientially. The question is, do we believe him? I believe the question is, do you believe him? Do you believe him? And if you do, let me give you verse 16 and we'll end here. If you do, this is what he says about wisdom. Somebody put this in the chat. Long life. Yes. Put that in it. Long life. Long life is in her. Who's her? Wisdom is in her right hand. And in her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways, the ways of wisdom, are pleasant. And all her paths are peace. Woo! Isn't that what you want? I know that's what I want more than anything. Don't you want a life that's pleasant and filled with peace? Pleasant and filled with peace. Pleasant and filled with peace. She's a tree of life to those who take hold of her. Those who hold her fast, hold on to her fast, hold on to her tight, will be blessed. See, watch this. What happens in my life, family, is not just dictated and determined by the wisdom that I hear. Text says those that hold fast to her. It's not the wisdom that I hear. It's the wisdom that I keep. Got to hold on to wisdom. And I'm praying that over somebody right now. You say, Dharius, you done? Yes, I think what at least what I'm trying to do now is I know people are running and listening to this and people are going to work, listening to this. And I'll say, hey, I'm going to take everything that I would say in 45 minutes and try to distill it down into 30 minutes or so that as people are walking and running or driving and commuting, they can get all of this revelation. But I'm praying for you. And I'm praying right now and believing that you're going to value wisdom more than you value anything else. Because when you do, you end up with a life that's pleasant and filled with peace. And if you want that, I want you to put, I want that in the chat. Come on, put it there. I want that. I want that. I want all of that. I want that. I need that. I got to have that. And each week, family, each week we have an opportunity. It's not the only way, but we've got a biblical way, right? We have an opportunity to demonstrate to God, I value wisdom more than anything else. And it's through this biblical concept called sowing and reaping. Man, Lord, y'all got me. I want to read you something here. If you want everything God's got for you, I want you to say everything. Watch what the word says here in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 6. Remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, but whoever sows generously shall also reap generously. Paul is talking here to the people at Corinth about collecting. He's talking about an offering, and he's using agricultural analogies. And he's saying, when you make a decision, right? When you make a decision to live with biblical generosity, when you say, God, I value you, and I value your wisdom, and I value your work. Come on. I value who you are. I value what you give, and I value what you're doing in the earth. I value that. Like when you say that, Paul says you are no longer a person who simply gives donations. So there are two types of givers. There are people who give donations, and there are people who sow seeds. Now, did you hear what I just said? There are people who give donations. There are people who sow seeds. A donation is you give to a cause, you give to an organization, and you're grateful. A seed is you are grateful and you give to a cause, you give to you give to an organization. But here's the difference. With the donation, the organization takes it, but God doesn't give you credit for it. Now, I'm not saying when you donate, it doesn't matter. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying when Paul's here in 2 Corinthians, he's talking about there are people who do think you can do the right thing for the wrong reason. Got me? You can have the right motion, but the wrong motive. So there are some people that donate and their hearts aren't pure when they do it. But Paul says here, he says, no. I'm talking about sowing and reaping. And he says, when you do that, he says, when you really value what God is doing, what he has done and who he is above everything else, and you express that through generosity, he said that seed, that gift is no longer just seen as a donation. God sees it as a seed that you just put into the ground that will produce a harvest. What is that harvest? Well, the harvest is, watch this, harvest represents that which is of value. It's either value to you, it's valuable in the marketplace, because sometimes people take the physical crops and they go sell them at the market, or sometimes people take the physical crops and they put them in their house. So it's value to you, it's valuable in the marketplace. But there are some things that you value. And God says, well, you're a seed sower. That's what I do. I send harvest. And so we're giving you an opportunity tonight, or whenever you're watching this, to say, man, I want to sow tonight. I want to sow today. It could be 3:00 in the morning when you're watching this. But God, I value the wisdom that's coming through this ministry and this teaching. And it's adding value to my life. And I want to support it. I want to thank you for it. God, I want to steward it well. God, I want to say thank you for thinking of me and sending this to me. And I want to honor your ministry of the word that's adding value in my life. And this Lord Third's been on the screen the entire time to give you an opportunity to give. I want to thank you in advance, sir. Thank you in advance, ma'am, for doing that. All right. We're going to pick this back up next week. Obviously, we're not going to get through the entire book of Proverbs. I am actually going to be starting something new in January. I think I'm going to do a teaching on strongholds. And I really want to start the year off teaching you that because I think that's the reason some of our resolutions, it's one of the reasons some of our resolutions don't become realities, is that we're dealing with strongholds. And those strongholds need to be broken. But we're going to rock in wisdom to the end of the year. And so I can't wait to see you back next week. Let me pray God's blessing on you. Father, thank you for every person that is watching this. Thank you for every person that you have led to this message. I just pray that they walk in the wisest season of their life. Thank you for every person that sowed. I just pray multiplication and harvest in their life. Make good on your word. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you. See you next week.